Hi guys and welcome back to Switch Up. My goodness, we've just hit 48,000 subscribers. Crazy stuff, absolutely crazy, but we really appreciate all the support that you've given us. Remember, we'll be giving away a copy of Divinity 2 on the Nintendo Switch in the coming days, so make sure your notifications and all that malarkey are switched on. So let's look at 10 games that came out recently and whether you should buy, avoid or wait for a sale. The first game is called Scheming Through the Zombie Apocalypse. Catchy name. And here you are greeted by two friends who unfortunately find themselves in just that. Now, the world is inhabited by animals rather than humans, although there are a lot of references to pop culture here. You take control of Hank and Larry. They really reminded me of Sam and Max, and I guess that's probably where some of the influence comes from. However, the game mechanics are slightly different. There's a few mini games here like lock picking, gambling and trading, and you'll be bartering for your very life. Some characters can die in the game, and as you try and survive the zombie apocalypse, the real charming factor here is the relationship between the two main characters. It's not the longest game ever. This is one most certainly for the adults. There are a few things that annoyed me just about the way they've implemented it on the Switch, like the fact that the text boxes are actually darker when you've got them selected rather than lighter. It really annoys me when they do that in games. Doesn't make any sense. The animations are slightly janky. They use that flash style where nothing really moves, but the comedy and the voice acting is decent. It's an okay game, but for the price they're asking, which is £3.99, I don't think you're going to be too upset if you pick this one up. The next title is going to put a lot of people off just by its very nature, and it's a pixel art roguelike, a bit like The Binding of Isaac. And I'll be honest with you, when I played it for the first 5 minutes, I thought, oh no, here we go again, this is not fun. And then 10 minutes later I thought, hang on, what's going on? I'm still playing. And an hour later, after about 4 successful runs and beating the first boss, I realized there's actually quite a lot here. Now, it's interesting because it plays out a little bit more like a shmup in that you don't aim with the right stick. You simply move towards enemies and your main weapon will fire. You have special abilities tied to your A, B, X and Y buttons, and that's where a little bit of strategy comes in, but it does play out, like I said, a little bit more like a shmup. You'll be dodging those bullets and trying just to stay alive, and in actual fact I found it quite nice being able to just concentrate on that survival element as bullets fill the screen. You go floor to floor as you would expect in different worlds, and then eventually fight a boss character, and those can be brutal. There are a huge number of pickups here, and it has a little bit of rad in it as well, whereby you pick up mutated body parts that then amplify your own statistics. I really ended up enjoying this one, and it's about $10, which isn't bad at all, I'd say. If it had 2-player co-op, I'd say pick it up straight away. And if you're in the market for a new type of experience in this genre, go and pick it up. But for everyone else, then maybe just wait for a minor sale. Next up then is a charming little game called Sydney Hunter and the Curse of the Mayan. It kind of upsets me that it's not Mayans or Maya, but you know, you can't win them all. This is basically Indiana Jones in a 8-bit pixel art style. It's a charming little game. It's not overly complex, but the music is brilliant, and the simplistic go here, collect gems, buy things from shops, find secret areas, get keys and progress actually was quite a relief really after some of the more intricate and complicated games I've been playing recently. I enjoyed the boss fights, I liked the visuals, and as I said, the music was excellent. It's £16 or $20, and for me it's pitted itself just a touch too high there. It definitely does what it sets out to do, which is to remake that classic feel of game, and it does just feel wonderful from start to finish. But yeah, if that's too high, then just wait for a sale, but keep it on your radar. The next game was actually recommended from you guys that we check it out because, well, we looked at it on an upcoming list and said, yeah, it looks all right, but not great. And I am more than willing to admit that I was completely and utterly wrong. Fail Seal Arbiter's Mark is a brilliant story-driven turn-based tactical RPG, and it's set in a fantasy world with a touch of steampunk thrown in as well. Now, you do go through an epic and quite mature story, over 40 story encounters and challenging endgame combat. There are 200 100 abilities here and 20 classes with over 240 pieces of equipment to work your way through, but it is that tactical turn-based combat that most appeals to me. It really does flow nicely and it's easy to control, the two main and most important elements. I also really like the fact that you could customize completely every character. You can change the way that they look, you can hire new mercenaries to fight alongside you and also customize everything about them, and well, it got my daughter's seal of approval, so yeah, it's a bit of a win this one. A great little title. It's currently £23.99, $29.99 or €24.99, but this feels like a premium game. You wouldn't be surprised to have seen this published by any of the top names. A very enjoyable title and one I highly recommend. The next game is called Legend of the Skyfish, and this caught my eye the second I saw it on the eShop. It has the obvious top-down Zelda vibe about it, but here you are a fisher lady with a rod that you can use to hook on and pull yourself across long distances, as well as grappling enemies close to you and then dizzying them and finishing them off with a few swipes of your rod. Now, it's a very good game actually. I enjoyed it. It's quite simplistic and it's based on several islands. You gradually progress, pushing blocks onto switches, killing enemies to unlock new areas, getting treasure from chests, you know the drill. But it's very well done, it's clean, it's crisp, and it's a low price. You do unlock some new gear as you progress, like a fishing rod with a blade on it, but the core mechanics stay rather similar, they just get slightly trickier as you go on. It's a simple one and it's a cheap one, and for this price I'd say this is a buy. As far as horror games go on the Nintendo Switch, Paper Dolls is an interesting mix of a few different types. It has the elements of the survival stealth type experience you'd find in something like Outlast, but also the creepy eeriness of something a bit more akin to Layers of Fear. Unfortunately, this doesn't quite match up to either of those two titles. It's an okay game and it has the usual mix of adventure puzzling where you find items in the world and combine them to get various effects. You can hide under tables or in closets to avoid enemies, and I did enjoy the aesthetic choices they'd gone for. It can just be a little plodding at times, and later in the game when you're trying to avoid those enemies over and over, it can become a touch mundane. At the price it is currently, which is around £13.76, it's an okay game. It's decent, it's just not great like the other two that I've mentioned. Those for me are the top dogs in terms of horror on Switch. This for me would be possibly a wait for sale. Next up is AER or AER Memories of Old, which is a very interesting game from Daedalic. Now, when I first played this, it seemed like almost a rhyme experience where you're walking around an environment, but then all of a sudden you unlock the ability to transform into a bird, and this changes everything. There's some environmental puzzling here, but it's very simplistic. I enjoyed the game a lot. It's one of those experiential ones, almost like a walking simulator, but there's some minor puzzles thrown in. It just never really reached the potential I think it could have. Now, don't get me wrong, the music's beautiful and the level design is lovely, just the way that you can fly in and out of clouds, through and under and over everything, and the way that it allows you to quickly change from a bird into a human, it's all very nice. It just feels strangely a touch lifeless. I would have liked some NPCs to be roaming around, giving me some quests, and then opening the world up that way. But as it is, it's quite a short experience. It's a good game, it's just not the greatness I think it could have been. For me, this would be wait for a sale. Space Cows from All In Games wasn't really one I was expecting much of. Wow, just look at that. But it really did charm me, as he obviously floats through various levels in space. It's a physics-based tactics game, whereby it almost acts like a twin-stick shooter at times. Everything about it is just so well done. The graphics are smooth, the audio's on point, and the controls are decent. They're a touch floaty at times, and Glenn found it maybe a bit too floaty, but for myself, it felt quite fair and enjoy physics-based games. The theme's interesting, and the humour, for the most part, although a little childish, is decent. It's about £11 as well, which for me is right on the money. There are a few mini games thrown in as well for good measure to split up the progression between levels, and if you like what you see on the screen and have a penchant for cows, pick this one up.
Oh, yeah.
Now the next title is from a well-known group of individuals called the Yogscast, and it's a co-op game called Brunch Club. Here you have to make breakfast, like bacon and eggs and toast, and it was a VR game originally, and I can imagine it would work really nicely in VR. Unfortunately, Glenn and I just found the controls didn't really work on the Nintendo Switch. You can grab items and you can kind of jump them to get them where you want them, but more often than not, it was just frustrating. Snipers would shoot the toast out of your hands and your eggs would just go rolling off. It was just an exercise in frustration, and neither of us found ourselves quite as enthralled as we hoped we would, to the point where we just would probably not play this one again, which is a real shame because, as I mentioned, in VR it is a very fun game. On Switch though, like this, I'd have to say avoid. On the theme of co-op, the next title is called Heave Ho. This comes from the legends over at Devolver Digital, and as soon as I say that, you're going to know it's a buy. And, well, yeah, it is a buy. They really do know how to pick good games. This is a two-player, almost puzzle platformer, but the puzzling comes from working with your partner and sticking to the surface and swinging each other. You can play up to 4-player co-op, but as it was just Glenn and I, and it was fun enough with just the two of us. It's one of those games that will have you literally laughing out loud because it's ridiculous at times, and it gets very tricky as you progress, but it just works. Add in the fact that it's under $10. It's currently $9.99 or £8.99, and I would say if you're looking for a good couch co-op that's going to have you both in stitches, this is a very good choice. It would be a buy. The last one is a platformer called KAVE Adventure that sees you play as Cave as he discovers a jetpack and he goes on an adventure. Yeah. So this game is really good. It has some Donkey Kong inspirations, but what really got Glenn and I was just how well it plays. It's an excellently designed and balanced platform adventure game. The visuals are a delight, the characterization's solid, and there's more than enough here. It's not the longest game ever, no, but it's also not the most expensive either. It really feels like a premium experience, and you wouldn't be surprised if you'd seen a Disney license attached to it. Very good indeed. There's 36 levels to work your way through. It has that 2.5D style, and you can use your trusty club to batter enemies, of which there are around 30 different types. There are a few flight sequences in the game as well, and some quite simplistic but decent enough boss fights. At around £17.99, I would still say this is a buy. Very well done indeed. We'll be giving away that copy of Divinity in the coming days. Nice one. For all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!